G'day, this is Captainoob, and this is a JOKR. This is a weapon that has been ported from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the new one of course, and it has custom sounds and animations as well. Although cheekily, it does use the standard vanilla game missile lock-on animations, which we'll get to talking about how to use this thing later because it's pretty awesome how they've done it. And there's a little bit of quirks with it as well, which I think add to the charm of this thing. But anyways, what you were looking at here is, I suppose it's supposed to be some sort of modernized version of the Javelin missile launcher, which exists in real life and existed back in the previous Call of Duty Modern Warfare trilogy entries into the series. But it's modernized now. It's got a bigger eye there for it to seek out Russian T-90s in the fields of Ukraine, which basically this thing has seen a lot of action. The Javelin, of course, in Ukraine. And they've knocked out so many Russian tanks at this point that the experts are questioning whether tanks are a viable form of military strategy and gear anymore, because you build a tank for, I don't know, 30, 40 million Russian dollars only for it to be knocked out by a missile launcher and a missile made at a fraction of the price. So I feel like that's kind of interesting. The ATGM might be the end of tanks as we know it, unless they get some sort of crazy missile spoof system which they can stop the missiles from actually hitting them, but I don't think they've developed anything like that just yet. Anyways, so the Javelin itself was a weapon designed in 1989, so early sort of 90s weapon. First deployed in 1996. It's an American-made launcher, made by Lockheed too, so the ones that make all the planes and stuff. So you know it's made by a pretty hefty bunch of people that have the money backing them, and that's how they develop this thing. Anyway, so this thing is a fire-and-forget missile launcher, normally made for tanks. There's no tanks in Fallout 4, at least none that actually will drive and shoot at you, so we're going to be locking onto people instead. And what this weapon does, it fires the missiles in a parabolic sort of trajectory. So watch the mouse, the number there, that's the launcher, and the current mods, that's the enemy. The missile will fly like this. The function of that, of course, in real life is to hit the tank's top armor on the roof, because that's where the armor is thin, because generally you don't engage tanks when they're directly above you. That's crazy talk, right? That's how they do it. That's how they destroy all of the Russian tanks in Ukraine. And there's some modifications here, including a legendary effect, which instigating would be nice, wouldn't it? And also sleight of hand to make the reloading faster. Excellent. Now, you might notice that the damage here is only 43. That is a big fat lie. Pay that no mind. But that's all we get. You get a faster reload with this thing, and that's all you get for customization. Let's go, I guess. First, though, I better show you where to get this thing. So, welcome to Good Neighbor. If you've never been, the location is right there. And if there was any NPC in the whole game that would have this thing in the back of their store, who would it be? Why, yes, it would be Cleo. Shut up, robot. And it's right up here upstairs. You'll find it just there, and you get it for free. You don't even have to pay for it. So, who's laughing now? 5-finger discount, robot. Also, bad idea to fire it and shoot it in here, so we'll restrain from that. So, let's go and shoot some bloodthirsty merc gunner dudes now. Righto, welcome to the Immersive Gunners Plaza. Here is the JOKR in first person. It's got some animations, bobbing, sprinting, and you can even gun bash with it, which is awesome. And it's got this little lever on the side which makes the thing stop existing. You push that lever up and the weapon just fizzles out of existence. Where does it go? Who knows? But at least you don't have to carry it around with you everywhere. Obviously, as a heavy weapon, it's not immediately compatible, at least without modification, of the classic holstered weapons, so it just goes away. That's fine. Anyways, looking down the sights of this thing, it looks fairly genuine from what I remember of using this thing in the Battlefield games, and a quick look in third person. It's awesome. The animations don't super line up for the trigger finger, but at least the other finger is on some sort of trigger. Maybe one of them's a lock-on button, the other one's actually fire, like a sort of a safety trigger system. Although I will point out that there's nothing in the way of trigger safety mechanisms like trigger guards. They're just, if you fall over with this thing, just hope you don't fall on a rock that hits both those triggers at the same time, otherwise it'll blow you sky high. That's what it looks like in third person. Let's start this off by finding a single target just so I can show off the trajectory flight of the missile, because I think it's really something, and I don't know how they did this, but I reckon it's some of the coolest stuff we've seen out of a mod weapon for a missile launcher ever. Speaking of missiles, it fires vanilla game missile launcher missiles, so it's amazingly cheap to run considering the power that you get out of it. Anyways, we fire the missile, it flies up, and then comes back down straight over his head, hits him in the back of the head, he goes down instantly. Brains immediately turned into mush by the ATGM. Now, I think in real life, the Javelin sort of launches the missile out of the barrel with like a spring-loaded system, then the propellant actually makes the thing fire, and I think it's reflected here in the way that this thing fires. Now, we're trying to get a centralized target here if we can. That'll do. Almost hit the little guardrail there. But in one missile and a giant nuclear explosion later, we find ourselves 6,000 XP richer, and despite saying you're dead, the gunners have ironically perished. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows when it comes to this thing, because I've noticed a few quirks with this thing. If you decide to dumbfire it, it'll just go wherever the hell it wants. In that occasion, it went behind me, so if I want to, like, flick the missile behind me here to try to kill another gunner, well, I somehow got something. I don't know who I killed there, but yeah, sometimes post lock-on, if you fire it without locking onto something, it just goes wherever it wants, which is odd. But should I dumbfire it again and make sure I don't hit any of these trees here, because I will die. I've got to be really careful with this. No, it just wants to go that way. Whatever it is, there must be like a massive IR heat signature that the thing's picking up and not letting me know about. But it's kind of quiet here at Gunners Plaza. Normally there'd be a lot of them shooting at me by now, but that's just simply not the case. So we'll put a missile over there and see what kind of damage it can do. Another 1700 XP to my name. I see another one. We'll throw a fresh rocket in here before we stop locking on, and that should kill all of them. Despite hiding under a roof there, he was no match for this particular weapon, it would seem. And that's kind of it. The word overpowered comes to mind whilst using this thing, but there is risk to this thing. I've run around with this thing before in my prior use, preliminary testing and such, and I've found that you gotta be careful when you're shooting this thing. Super careful, because it can go through any geometry, any walls, and the explosion radius is massive. So if you're not careful, you could easily end yourself with this thing. And I've just triggered the safety there. You have to aim down sights and launch the missile, of course. Just like that. Worthy about note of this weapon, it behaves a little bit like a MIRV launcher. So should you decide to fire this thing on too low of an angle, like so, you'll immediately die. So don't do that. Instead, I recommend first locking onto the target, like so. There it is, pointing the missile launcher up, and then launching. The missile will guide itself onto the target just fine, and you won't end up as a giant pile of destroyed ashes or whatever. So we're gonna beat up this glowing, famished blood mother with this thing. It might take a while, but that's what the bash damage is. And you'd think for a gigantic missile launcher like this that hitting someone with a blunt object, a thing like this, would do more damage, but it kind of doesn't. Worth mentioning that bashing in third person is actually faster, and it always creates a stagger, so basically I win. As long as my AP bar outlasts his health bar, then we shall be just fine. And he goes down with a monstrous critical, and you know what I need? I need a bayonet on this. Make it happen. Alright, keen to see how a thing that destroys Immersive Gunners Plaza in less than 5 minutes does against a giant monster? Watch closely. Firstly, we'll let that guy take care of himself, because it's not worth the missile. And then we'll begin firing at the giant mutant that you see before you. And despite this thing having a quicker reload, I don't think it matters, because there's a significant amount of delay on this particular launcher. So the weapon is ready for a fair while before actually able to start firing. Anyways, so now we've got a little bit of a problem because as it stands, he is far too close for me to do any damage to him without immediately killing myself. So right now I have to sort of back away. Hopefully he gets stuck on something, but as long as he's at a safe distance, like being over there, you see, then we can actually fire at him and doing a decent amount of damage. Now, over there, we might clear out his targets for him, which means he will start running back at us. But again, we're firing at a target at a lower elevation, so we first lock on, point the missile launcher up, and then let her rip. And luckily enough, Swan hasn't approached whatever they are over there in order... Okay, now they're dead. He's going to start chasing me down again. Dumb firing this thing. No good. That's going to the other side of Fenway Park, I think. So now we've got to get some distance, because even in this distance, by the time the missile's up there in a bed, it'll take, I don't know, a couple of seconds for it to actually hit down. And by the time it does, he's close enough to be in the radius of the explosion, of course. Against a target with higher elevation, there's less danger in that, and he may have gotten himself stuck. So that's great. Just gotta make sure I don't hit that tree or that power pole, otherwise I will die. Power lines, they don't matter. There's no collision there. And now we can retreat further into Fort Galaxy here. Not to be confused with Ford Galaxy. Honestly, this defensive cage here might be my salvation. So if I get far enough back, which I am trusting it to be, yep, we'll be just fine. If I can just stay that little bit away. That's not good enough. That's not going to hit anything because I wasn't locked on. Although I got some hits, so maybe that did actually work. He should be pretty low in health at this point, which means we can keep running around. And he's found himself something there. Something to bonk his hammer with. And in rather cinematic fashion, at the same time as being hit in the face by a rock, we actually killed him. That took so many tries, so many self-terminations there, but in the end, we won, and that's all that matters. So I'm thinking this is mostly sort of an Alpha Strike weapon. See, in this situation, it'd be incredibly useful for targeting that giant-ass bear that you see before you, like that, and almost got the missile on the ground there. And then immediately clearing out every single other thing around it. And then he's going to run towards me, and then I'll get caught in the radius should I accept this. So what I really need to do now is hire some of my followers and help me finish the job. But I'm guessing that's basically the only way I can run this properly. So I guess I'll be right back. Alright, time to put that little theory of mine into practice. I've got some backup here, including Bridget, Matilda, Phoebe, Ella, and Winter, wherever she went. There she is, hiding behind the bushes. Anyway, so we're going to lock on to the big boy over here. And by the way, there's third-person animations. I haven't showed them off, but you load the thing like that. Completely nothing-faced, too. Have at them! This is perfect. Take him out. Oh, Ella's got the stealth boy going on. That's cool. Perfect. Everything went reasonably well. No one's even hurt. No cuts or bruises or anything. She said that. Did you hear that? Okay, one more test. I want to see what happens when you give this to NPCs, because the chaos that might ensue might be enough to crash the game. It might, you know. We'll see. Okay, we'll try this again, but this time I've given Ella and Bridget their own JOKR launchers just to see how NPCs handle a weapon of such caliber. So we'll mosey on over. I've got Phoebe's other Institute rifle, by the way. That's why what you're looking at is odd looking. Anyways, we'll just get started on those bears, and we'll see what kind of damage we get. Heard a missile go off, and that definitely killed something. And you can get more of a view on this thing. They're just firing at the bear at complete point-blank ranges like that. That's amazing. They don't even care. And I'm thinking the reason because of that is that... Oh, Winter's down. That's not good. Ella's gone for the revive rather than blowing it to smithereens with the Joker, but that's fine. Actually, it might be a squad wipe here by the looks. Is anyone left? No, they've picked Winter up. And now you're T-posing. Are you supposed to be reviving? Well, I might just, No, she's down. Okay, that's really weird. Maybe you do T-pose if you decide to go down with this thing. Anyways, so the job's done. The missile launches were a resounding success, and I dare say that they just simply use them better than I can because they can use them at point-blank range and not blow me or themselves up. Somebody get Winter up, please. There we go. Double sim pack. But our job is far from over. Winter, that was just a big bear. They weren't controlling anything. So, yeah, that there was the Joker, both in my hands and the hands of much more competent NPCs, which really pains me to say. But it's a lot of fun for a weapon. I think potentially you could say that it's a little bit impractical here and there when you've got a weapon that can't be used at range, and when things are at a too close range, you'll kill yourself from self-damage, from explosion damage. So it's kind of like got the same risk factor as a Fat Man Merv launcher, which can be fun to use in a way, but you'll find that you'll die a lot of self-inflicted deaths to this, which might be a little bit of a pain in the ass should you be playing a survival playthrough. But chances are, if you're doing a survival playthrough, that you won't be using heavy weapons like this anyway. But anyways, if you are impressed with what you've seen on this video, check out links in the description. They will be down there. And if you want to download these follower mods to use the weapons for themselves, I'll leave a link down there. They're not included with the weapon, just so you know. Just want to make that crystal clear. They're all different things. And I've got a mod that makes them all range out in front of me, kind of like Dogmeat. So right now, Winter's taken point. She'll sort of run out towards the enemies like Dogmeat would, which is kind of cool. But that's neither here or there. That's a different mod entirely. But yeah, Joker, check it out. Recommend that mod. Thank you very much for watching.